What I'm going to be covering in my talk actually is portions and material from this party program. So the PSL doesn't just have a bunch of random positions or whatever. We have actually a program of where we see ourselves in the world today as an organization, as a class, and how we see our role in it and how we see our role in changing that society. But not only that, we want to rally people around what we're actually for in that new society. And so in this program, we lay out succinctly what a government taken over by the masses of people would look like under our party's program. And this isn't a document or a pamphlet that was written by one person or one committee. This program is actually a collective effort of the entire party nationally. That was developed, the process starting over 3 years ago, but a collective process of our branches of all over the country going over and drafting and proposing amendments and things like that to the content in this party program. And those who were here at the beginning of the meeting know that this Sunday is a mandatory internal meeting for full members and candidate members of the PSL, where we're embarking on electing a new party Congress, which is elected every 3 years in the PSL. And the last part, this new party Congress is coming in February of 2013, and that last party Congress 3 years ago was the final leadership body that finally approved and voted on this final party program. And so it was a collective effort of about a year, culminating with the party Congress. So people should pick it up. We have a bunch over here. It's a $5 to $7 donation. Takes you through all the things I just explained. So everything you need to know about the party is here, and what we're actually fighting for. And we want to talk about this kind of on the heels of Enrique's talk, where he talked about fast food workers and Walmart workers and longshore workers fighting back against cuts, against austerity, to defend wages, to defend benefits. And these are real significant ignition points of class struggle. Class struggle takes place every single day in all forms. Even after a socialist revolution, class struggle will continue to take place in many forms until there are no more social classes. But the class struggle that we are talking about in that talk is class struggle under capitalism, meaning that class struggle where the state, the government, the courts, the prisons, is a state of a particular class in this class struggle. And it is not our class. It's the ruling class of bankers and billionaires. So it's a state that we live under, but it's not a state that serves our interests as workers. It's a state that serves the interests of the capitalists as capitalists and owners of means of production. So what I hope to talk about in this talk is that we're talking about fighting for these things under capitalism, but it'd be much easier to create an equal society and a just society if we owned the state, if it was a state for workers and not for capitalists. And so I'm going to go over a little bit of what we mean by that and what that looks like. So the PSL aims to abolish the corrupt, rotten, anti-people capitalist economy, state, and governmental system and replace it with one dedicated to meeting the needs of people, a socialist system. Solving the multiple crises of the present system is impossible without a revolution that ends the rule of the capitalist class and replaces it with a new state power that acts in the interests of the working class. Karl Marx wrote, quote, "The working class cannot simply lay hold of the ready-made state machinery and wield it for its own purposes," end quote. In other words, the government that has worked so well for the capitalists cannot serve the interests of the working class. The dictatorship of the rich, which we live under now, must be dismantled and replaced with working class power. A state and government of, by, and for the workers must replace the capitalist state. The foundation of any state power is repressive force. The military, police, prison, courts, and so on. The standing army and police must be disbanded and replaced by the armed people, organized in workers' defense councils. A critical task of the new socialist order will be defending itself from the displaced capitalist class that would like to return to the days of exploitation. A workers' government would create an entirely different type of court system, with its basic institutions determined by the democratic organs of workers' power. Judges would not be required to be lawyers. All public officials, without exception, would be elected and subject to recall at any time by those who elect them. The salaries of all elected officials will be no higher than the average wage of workers. The same would be true of all those hired to carry out government and state business. Holding public office would be based on a real desire to serve, not on self-enrichment. Big change from today. Corporate lobbying would be eliminated, along with the corporations themselves. A workers' government would begin to build socialism by expropriating the privatized wealth of the banks, industry, agribusiness, mines, and other wealth-generating properties, eliminating the vast control that capitalists have over production. This would be done without compensation to the capitalist owners who have stolen so much for so long from the workers and oppressed people of the world. Converting the private property of society to socially owned property is a necessary first step in building socialism by utilizing the productive capacity of society and natural resources for the planet and for the benefit of humanity instead of for profits. Whereas the goal of capitalist production is to make as much profit as quickly as possible, the goal of a planned socialist economy is to meet the needs of the people in a long-term and sustainable fashion. Workers would have access to more of what society produces. Planning is critical for socialist development. Under capitalism, each corporation plans how much goods and services to produce and sell in order to maximize profits. But there is no overall plan to decide how to allocate society's finite resources. What should be produced, what should be cut back or eliminated. The result is an enormous waste of resources, while the basic needs of billions in the world go unmet. Socialism is the necessary stage between capitalism and communism. The full achievement of socialism will require the development of the economy to meet the fundamental needs of the working class and the population as a whole. It will also be marked by the fading away of classes and class antagonisms. This cannot happen overnight. Socialists use the term private property to refer to the system of capitalism. That is, the private ownership of the means of production, being the factories, the land, natural resources such as oil and water, and the machinery to produce privately owned wealth. Under socialism, a home is not considered private property. A home is considered personal property, not a commodity for investment. Under socialism, housing would be a guaranteed right, and no individual would be able to own another person's home. Ironically, under capitalism, the system that claims to uphold the sacred right of private property, homelessness has become a permanent feature, and millions of people are losing their homes through foreclosures. But, for example, in socialist Cuba, despite being blockaded by the United States, there is no homelessness whatsoever, because a home is considered a human right. This was only possible through the elimination of private property, including landlordism. Achieving fully developed socialism, a goal that has not yet been achieved anywhere, will open the way to communism and the end of class society. Communism will also mean the withering away of the repressive state, which only came into being with the rise of class society. Socialism can only be achieved by a mass movement of millions of people organized to fight for what is rightfully theirs. In working to build the movement that will usher in the next revolution, a socialist revolution, the PSL puts forward the following struggle-based program. And this program outlines what a genuine workers' government would do. There's only two choices for humanity today: an increasingly destructive capitalism or socialism. The PSL believes that the only solution to the evils of capitalism is a socialist transformation of society. And the program outlined here is just the beginning of what can be achieved when workers and oppressed people organize and take power. The people of the United States desperately need and deserve a new government and a new system run by the multinational working class in their interests. The struggle to defeat capitalism by building a socialist society is the most pressing issue faced by humanity today.